All right, what's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. The book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father, Amazon, Kindle, and CreateSpace. A link will be in the description box below as usual. This video is entitled Black Man, You Can Evolve. Dealing with society, a lot of times we are who we are, and we're also put into a box of what we are and can be and cannot be. And a lot of that comes from family upbringing, social engineering in a sense, and our life choices. But there's a part of it that we that we should think about understanding, and it's that we can evolve. The reason I say that is because as I get older, I laugh at myself when I hear people younger than me have an ideology that I had at their age, and I'm like, oh, now I see why they told me I was silly. Because you're not going to keep the same ideology and the same mental processing as you grow in age and experience and in everyday and just mental growth in general. You know, what and one thing that we have to take into consideration is we have to give ourselves the idea that we can grow, because sometimes we put ourselves in a box because everything in society is compartmentalized and put into a box, that we don't give ourselves a margin for error, in the sense of maybe I won't think like that a year from now. We're not open to, you can evolve because you should be open to the idea that it might not always be that way. And I remember when I was young, just a quick thing, I wanted to get tattoos because tattoos was the craze, right? And my mindset was, I'm going to get this huge tattoo. And I said, you know what? Give myself, but at the same time, I remember watching my peers get tattoos. And they got them and they liked them and they showed them off. And then they pseudo regretted them because they was like, maybe I didn't want this. So they kept getting more and more sometimes because they realized they really wasn't feeling what they got. So they as they evolved, they got more and more tattoos because this was a timestamp of this thing, and this was a timestamp of this, and this is a timestamp of this, and this is a timestamp of this, and blah blah blah. And I was like, well, if I get a tattoo and I want this big old tattoo, give myself 30 a month and see if I still want it, if I still want the very same thing. And come to find out, like, the 30 days passed and the tattoo that I wanted, I didn't want in 30 days. You know, I want this. And I'm like, oh, well, you can't get it. And, you know, we do that to ourselves mentally where sometimes we don't evolve because we have an ideology tattooed on our brains that we don't give ourselves time to grow out of or expand. Sometimes we can, you know, we might just put our foot in the water and we haven't really dove in that ocean yet. So we don't give ourselves, we can evolve because sometimes we're not all in all the way, you know. And it's funny, you know, and society sometimes has an issue with us evolving because society, in my opinion, is very, very basic, very impulsive, because when you look out into the world, you can basically tell where somebody's ideology is about because they spew talking points from whatever television station they're watching or whatever music they're listening to. And, you know, my taste in music evolved over the years, and it changed my mentality about things. I don't watch TV like that because I don't even want to listen to most of the dumb stuff people say, because I realized when I stopped watching TV and I started looking at it again, how dumb things sounded, how dumb things would sound to me. It's like, who would believe that? But if you watch it every day, you do. But we don't give ourselves the aspect of evolving. I'm talking about man to man also, where, you know, if we look a certain way, it's an issue. If we dress a certain way, it's an issue. If we speak a certain way, it's an issue. If we have a certain ideology, it's an issue. And because there's so many of us who are stagnant that we don't give ourselves room to be fluid. Because even if somebody has an approach that's diametrically opposed to yours, that's part of a journey, of a process. And we forget that we can evolve, because you might go in a direction, a person might go in a direction that you're opposed to, but as they go through it, they evolve into something else. And you got to remember that we evolve, because sometimes we write each other off in the midst of our evolution. And I think that's detrimental, because, yeah, I mean, we're not all going to be on the same page. We're not all going to get along. And society does that to us all the time. And we should have more discernment with doing that to ourselves. Because what happens is, you know what it's like to be written off. And you also know what it's like to be at the end of a period of evolving. And when people look at you different, like, well, how did you get there? 'Cause I got there from this process. And they're like, oh man, but I wrote you off last year and now you're this. And, you know, then it creates this whole, like, it burns this bridge that probably cannot be rebuilt, because you won't understand, because you can't rebuild a bridge that somebody else burned from writing you off, and they have to go through the process that you went through and a trial by fire of them getting written off and evolving to a certain space to get to where you're at. And sometimes we have a hard time guiding each other through that. And sometimes we have to take that journey alone. But we can evolve. You know, I think about being younger, you know, because some of my teachers didn't want me to be certain things. They had a problem with me growing. You know, the adults wanted me to be at a certain space because they could benefit from where I was at that space. So they had a problem with me growing. Sometimes the church has a problem with you being at a certain space, or wants you in a certain space because they have a problem with you growing, because it could cost their bottom line. Sometimes your love interest could have a problem with you growing, because if you grow and evolve, it may put a dent in how you can love each other, because, you know, they may not be able to accept your growth. You're not going to grow at the same space as somebody. But you have to be willing to accept it. And that's why I said, you know, black men can evolve. You know, you can evolve. And the reason I keep saying evolve is because you have to give yourself permission. Because a lot of times, what I was talking about earlier, as far as being put in a box, when people put you in a box, they put you in a box for their purpose. So you don't have to stay in their box, because the box they put you in is suitable for them. You know, a lot of times they can't handle you growing, because at the same time it's a direct slap in the face to their lack of growth, their lack of evolution. And sometimes this is where jealousy and hatred come from, because if I see you as this, and you have grown to this, that means I limited you, but you didn't limit yourself. But I limited myself by worrying about your evolution, or and I wasted my time, and now I'm behind somebody who I felt I was better than, and now I hate you because I hate myself, but I don't have the courage to hate myself, you know. And it's weird, but we can, we don't have to. We don't owe people evolution, We don't. We don't owe people our stagnation, is what I should say. So you can evolve. Like, don't be ashamed of it. Yeah, sometimes you're going to be outcasted. Sometimes you're going to be looked at crazy, but you don't have to fit in. You don't have to be what everybody else wants you to be. You have to be the best version of yourself. And in order to be the best version of yourself, sometimes you have to shake things up, do things over, or change your mentality, or change your ideology, change your direction, take on a new trailblaze, a new journey that you have no idea where it's going to lead, and be willing to, in a sense, you might have to be willing to lose the people around you. And I think that's also part of, sometimes we choose not to evolve because we're scared to lose the people that we're with when we're at a certain space. And sometimes you just grow out of people. Your evolution can actually make you grow out of people. And that doesn't mean that you'll never be around them again. What that means is, you can't take them with you everywhere you go. Because it's hard for some people to understand. And you know the difference, because if you evolve in a certain way, there's certain people that you could take with you in certain environments, in certain places, because they're open to seeing the difference, and it might open them up to changing and growing in a different direction in their own life. Not necessarily in the same way you going, but just giving them the confidence to say, well, I'm going to take this path here because this is what I wanted to do, and I see why you went from here to here, and your evolution has given me an idea of the rooms that I want to be in, or the space that I want to be in. Not necessarily rooms, but space. A lot of times we have to be, we can evolve, and we don't have to be ashamed of that. And before I go, one of the things about our evolution is don't be shamed into a situation where somebody wants you to become something so they can become something. No, do it for you. Like, if you want to be better for you. Don't be better to be better for somebody else. They have to fix themselves, because you're going to waste your time evolving for somebody who's not changing for themselves. You can't become your best self in order to make somebody else a better version of themselves, because that might not necessarily be your best self. That may be your best servant for this person being their best self. So I hope it made sense, y'all. I really do. Let me get my butt up and go to the gym. We out.